DATV, and the Greater Dayton Area League of Women Voters present Meet the Candidates, your chance to learn about the candidates running for office in the November election.
Hello, I am Erin O'Brien, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. I am here with candidates running for the office of Judge of the Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Division. The term of office is 6 years, and the salary for this position is $140,550. There are two candidates running for this position. Those candidates are Jeff Rezebeck and Helen Wallace. We will start our interviews by having the candidates tell us about themselves and why they want to serve as a Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas Judge, Juvenile Division. You will each have 2 minutes for opening remarks. Helen, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Again, my name is Helen Wallace, and I am running for Judge of Montgomery County Juvenile Court. I want to be the next judge of juvenile court because I truly care about our children, and I am passionate about making a difference. I myself am a mother to a 15-year-old and a nearly 13-year-old. I have practiced in juvenile court for over 17 years. I began as a delinquency prosecutor, and then I moved on to start my own private practice in 2005. Since then, I've been a defense attorney, a custody attorney, and a guardian ad litem. I have over a decade of experience as a guardian ad litem. Through my work in juvenile court, I have seen all of Montgomery County. I've been inside many homes. I've been inside most of the schools. I've had a unique opportunity to see what needs our children have, and I have ideas on how to best address those needs. I've also had personal experience with my son. He has some learning differences. He's dyslexic. He's very bright, but he learns to read in a different way. I noticed that many of the children that are delinquent in juvenile court also have learning differences. It's not that they're not bright children, it's just that they learn in a different method. And our schools currently can't address all of the learning needs that our children have, or are unable to address them adequately. If I am elected juvenile court judge, I plan to help the schools with this issue. I want to implement an educational tutoring program through federal funds that I believe our court can apply for and get. And I also want to partner with the trades to have mentorship programs. I've learned through my practice and work in the community that the trades need labor, and our kids certainly need something positive to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. And Jeff, please tell us about yourself and why you want to serve as a Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas Judge.
Well, I've had the great pleasure over the last several months to be the Montgomery County Juvenile Court Judge, and we have done an excellent job already with many of the new programs that I've tried to start and begin working with. But a little bit about myself. Most people would know me as maybe the state representative of the 43rd District, which I was in place over the last 3.5 years. And at that post, we did a number of great things up at the State House. We worked on House Bill 410, which was a truancy bill, which really got the kids, if you read the papers lately, here in Montgomery County as well as in Greene County, they are seeing the dramatic improvement of kids going back into school that would have been placed on truancy or even suspended from school. So we did additional things with kinship care. We're working on trying to keep kids out of the court system and back into the community. That's what I did as a state representative. It's what I'm doing as the Montgomery County Juvenile Court Judge already. And there's many other things that we can continue to do. We're looking at permanency docket, in which kids who have languished in care already for over 2.5 years, some of them 10 to 15 years. We need to find true permanency, whether that's back in their home, their family home, a kinship care home, or even foster care in a sense of adoption to that family. We need to be addressing that more seriously. And I've already started to take that on as the judge. I've been in Dayton. I've had a practice for over 20 years. And most of that was in juvenile court. Even before I began being an attorney, I was a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate. Many people thought I've already had an office in juvenile court for over the last 20 years. We've continued to do that. I have many other experiences that can demonstrate what I do with the kids in our community, from all the representing a foster care company choices to being a coach for the Vandalia Butler Aviators.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask you both a series of questions. You'll both get a chance to answer and have 2 minutes each. Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
Great.
Do you have a guiding philosophy with respect to administering justice to juveniles?
Yeah, one of the things that I think you have to do, and it's been a great time to have that experience. I had experience as a magistrate in Dayton Municipal Court, which gave me for 3 years as a substitute magistrate, gave me the experience not only on the administrative side, but really the control of the courtroom. But when you come to juvenile court, one of the first things that my guiding principle is, make sure we listen and hear not only the children that are before the court, but their parents, the grandparents. And many people have already come to me and said, Jeff, you take time with each case. Well, yes, that's what we're there to do. One of the first days that I was in juvenile court, we had a swearing in. Judge Capizzi and I swore in over 50 new employees. And the first thing that I told them is, you have to remember, when those families, whether a delinquent child or a family that's coming in fighting over custody in our civil division, or a much more tragic situation is Children's Services case where they're being removed from the home. You have to remember, we have to be the most compassionate people, because this is the worst day of those individuals' lives. And I think a lot of those employees took that to heart, because we need to improve our customer service, if you would say, and be more compassionate and making sure we're moving that forward. So those are a guiding principle to make sure. We also need to hold those all accountable that come before the court, whether it's the juvenile themselves if they're in a delinquency case, the parents, Children's Services who are providing services, as well as the court, our probation officers, everybody accountable, make sure we're getting all those needs ready there for that child and that family to move forward. So those are the guiding principles that I use day in and day out in Montgomery County Juvenile Court.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Helen, do you have a guiding philosophy with respect to administering justice to juveniles?
I do. I think it's very, very important to balance the safety of the community with the need of the juvenile and that of the juvenile's family. Unlike Jeff, I had the opportunity to be a prosecuting attorney. As I stated earlier, I was a prosecutor in the juvenile delinquency section for over a year. I then moved to prosecute in grand jury to an adult felony docket where I had jury trials for adults charged with felonies all the way up to murder. And then I was transferred to Care House, which deals with felony offenses against children. So with that background, I understand the need for structure, boundaries, consequences, and sanctions to keep our community safe. Of course, that has to be balanced with the needs of the child and what's in the best interest of the child per the statute. I have the experience to do both. As Jeff said, it's important to look at the entire situation a child is in. A child maybe before the court because it's committed an offense in juvenile court, or they may be in front of juvenile court because they are a victim, per se, of abuse, neglect, or dependency. Those two sets of children are treated completely different and should be. In this segment of the court, there's nothing but compassion for that child and to do what is best for that child. In the delinquency side of the court, if we have children robbing people at gunpoint or committing murder, they need a severe consequence. With my background as a prosecutor and as a parent, I fully understand both.
Thank you for your answer. And Helen, what, in your opinion, is the most important function of a juvenile court judge?
I believe that a juvenile court judge sets the tone for the entire court. and also sets the tone of the relationship with the community. As judge, I will be collaborative. I will reach out into the community and listen and hear what their needs are and how we can help. I will also create or flourish a positive attitude among the employees in juvenile court. Because if juvenile court is a happy place to work, that will be reflected in a ripple effect throughout the children that we see and the community. I think that's the most important function of a judge, along with implementing new programs. Judges have the ability to be creative, to get funding, to implement new programs. Jeff may talk about some of the programs of juvenile court, but please remember, he's only been an appointed judge for 3 months. The programs that have been innovative and put in place were put in place by Judge Kuntz, who passed away in May, and Judge Capizzi. I have shown that I can be creative and a problem solver throughout my career with my own children and in juvenile court. As judge, I will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff, what, in your opinion, is the most important function of a juvenile court judge?
The most important function that I have every day is sitting there making the best decision I can for each and every child and family that comes before the court, and by being compassionate while following the law and being fair, but holding everybody accountable. And there are many things that the juvenile court judge does, as I do every day as that judge. I end up sitting there working with employees, working with their issues on a day-to-day basis, working with the staff that are trying to do the paperwork and get it through the court, working with pro se litigants. And we'll talk about the programs that the court is doing. I've supported those for 20 years. I, in fact, ran for this position in 2012 and tried to get the court to actually do some of those programs, and finally they joined the JDAI just because there was a lot of pressure on them. They originally weren't going to join it under the leadership that was there. But let's look at what we've done, I've done personally. The truancy bill is making a difference. Look at the programming that is now from the state level coming down. That's what I want you to, as individuals, look at what a judge is. Look at their actions, not what they've said. Look at what they've done as judge. Helen has never sat in a position as a judicial officer. I have. Look at what has occurred in that situation, and I've been successful in helping these children move forward in their lives. Look at my career as a guardian ad litem, and look at the successes that we've had. That will tell you, as a guardian ad litem for 20 years, doing that work, 20 plus years, doing that work as the judge as they accept your GAL reports. And I continue to do that, being collaborative and working with many of the different partners in the community. One of the things that we already started working on is developing that permanency court, but also working to reach out to take those programs that are in our court and get them out into the community prior to the children coming into our court. Because if they come into our court, that's already one strike against them.
Thank you. Jeff, is there anything that you would change with the court if elected?
No. I'm already there. As I said, as juvenile court judge, I've already started to make changes. One of the things I've challenged already the juvenile court, the magistrates that are particularly in the abuse, neglect, dependency areas, we have this, one of the problems is delay in the cases. They're heard through a magistrate, the parties can object, and then come to the judge, and then they can appeal. Well, that's delaying in those particular cases 6-9 over a year, 6-9 months to over a year of delaying a child's life. What we need to do, and what I've pledged to do, in fact, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. I told those magistrates, those permanent custody cases, let me hear them. That takes away that delay of doing the objections and allows it to be heard directly by me. We need to continue to do that. Years ago, we used to have the court reporters actually sit in on the permanent custody hearings, so we didn't have the delay of the transcript. We don't do that anymore. I want to re-implement that, and we're trying to get that. They're trying to get caught up. Those are just one issue that we need to address directly as an administrative thing, and I'm already working on that as your Montgomery County Juvenile Court judge. Additional things, we talked about the permanency docket. Those are the kind of things that we need to be innovative to look at while also implementing all those other programs and maintaining that. As a state representative, you learn really quickly how to work within the bureaucracy to make sure we get all those grants and keep those grants coming in. We want juvenile court to provide more, not necessarily to have kids come into the court more, but we want to provide more services outside the community, outside our court, to help those kids so they don't come in.
Thank you. Helen, is there anything you would change with the court if elected?
Yes, there is, but let me just address 2 points if I may. Jeff indicated when he answered your question that, oh, well, he's already there. The public needs to understand that he is only there because one person, Governor Kasich, appointed him. He has not won an election. He needs to win this election November 6th in order for him to have that seat. So please understand that. Also understand, as he himself pointed out, that for the last 4 years, he has not been in Montgomery County working every day to improve the lives of our children as an attorney, as I have. He has been in Columbus. He is a career politician. I am not. I had no designs or plans on running for office until this seat opened up. This seat opened up, and I knew I could make a difference, and I was willing to leave my very successful private practice so that I could do this for the community. Jeff did institute some legislation and propose some bills while in office. One of them was to allow people to carry a concealed weapon in school. The other was the truancy bill he discussed, which I think does have some positives, and kudos to Jeff on the positives. The negative side of the bill, however, is that a child can miss nearly a full year of school before the court is ever made aware. That has a huge impact on a child. What I would do is to change those things. I want to it's a fundamental difference. I want to get to the root of the problem. Why are people truant? Why are kids truant? Is it because their children are addicted to, or their parents are addicted to opioids? Why didn't Jeff address that? That's the main issue. Why are kids truant? Are their families homeless? Do they not have food? Are they being evicted from place to place? As judge, I will look at the root causes of the problems that affect our kids.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
And Helen, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you will face as a judge?
I think the biggest challenge is the opioid crisis. It is tearing apart our families and our community. We have parents dying. Children not only have parents that are unable to care for them for a certain amount of time, but in some cases their parents are dying from addiction to heroin, synthetic opioids. We now have fentanyl, carfentanil. This is such a serious issue that is ravaging our community. Grandparents are dying. The children that are currently in care, both temporarily and, as Jeff said, on a longer-term basis, those children in 10 years are going to have children of their own. How are they going to parent those children? These kids have suffered trauma after trauma after trauma. My biggest challenge is going to be to create a support network for these children and their parents to allow them to beat any opioid addiction that is affecting their family. And of course, there are other issues facing the court. My biggest challenge is going to be to make sure that we have the funding and the ability to give children the biggest support system we can so that they can flourish. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff, what do you think is the biggest challenge you will face as a judge?
Well, part of the biggest challenge is the perception that the community has about juvenile court. A lot of times people come in Montgomery County and they think that on the delinquency side, since the court's much more lenient, doesn't follow through, won't hold kids accountable. You hear kids outside the courtroom when I was practicing attorney that don't worry about it, you're just going to get a slap on the wrist. We need to make sure that the community, and we work with our community partners, whether that is all the police departments, sheriff's department, all the other providers, know that when the court makes a decision, we expect all those to be, that order be honored by everybody that's involved. And in getting over that perception that our court is lenient. One of the things that we focus in on the court is really trying to work with that family and work with inside their circumstances. All these children and these families come to the court from diverse backgrounds, diverse situations. And you have to mold and not only mold the solutions for these families, but you have to listen to the workers. Our probation department, our children's services workers, everybody that's involved has great ideas. We need to do a better job at listening to those ideas and listening to those programs. And that's probably the challenge, to make sure we're listening. Let me address some things that Helen talked about directly about me. We're in a judicial campaign, and we're supposed to be talking about ideas, not attacking and criticizing other people. Clearly, she has never read House Bill 410. House Bill 410 is about truancy, and it does not take you a year to get involved in that program. In fact, if you miss 30 hours, you're supposed to be in on the AIP, which is that absent intervention program, within 14 days of that. We're working it. It's working. If you read the paper, it is absolutely working and keeping kids in school well in advance. One of our magistrates basically said, she's seeing kids in October that she would normally see in January and February. As well, she doesn't understand that I didn't spend a night in Columbus. I came back and drove every night that I was in Columbus, came back, other than a few nights when the votes were going over. So what I do is ask the public to make sure they read the record. Don't just listen to rhetoric.
Thank you. And Jeff, in closing, what would you like the voters of Montgomery County to remember about you as they go to the polls in November? You have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
What I'd like them to do is really look at the whole individual. The 20-plus years of successful law practice that really focusing on juvenile court, guardian ad litem work. That was the 2005 CASA of the Year award winner. All these other awards, and we don't want to go through them because that's not about that. It's about the kids that we represented and the families that we changed for the good. What we want to do, what I want them to look at is, look at my record as state representative. Look at the money that we were able to get back into Trotwood and open up their community center. No one else did that. I did it in our community. Look at what I did for Preble County and working with get their community centers open at their fairgrounds and get their kids doing those positive things. Additional money for the food deserts here in Montgomery County. People are using those programs that I helped create. Then I want you to look at me personally. I'm a coach. I volunteer in all the different organizations. I've worked as a volunteer as a chairman of the board and treasurer of Choices Foster Care. We're in. That's what I want you to look at. Look at us individually. And if you look at that and look at the judicial experience already, not only was I a magistrate for 3 years and have that judicial experience, I've been judge since the early part of July. And I think that says a lot. And we are doing wonderful work. I ask you, the community can come in and see how we're doing. I wish people would come and see how we're changing lives already in the very short time that I've been judge, but in the long time of 3+ years as a judicial officer. I think it's very important that experience matters, and that's what I ask of the community. Keep me as your Montgomery County Juvenile Court Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Helen, in closing, what would you like the voters of Montgomery County to remember about you as they go to the polls in November? You also have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you so much. First, I would like to address something that Jeff said. I did not introduce the subject of his legislation. I actually find that pretty irrelevant and not proper for this discussion. We are running for judge. He brought it up. He brought his record and his 4 years in the legislation up. I most certainly have read his House bill. I've also talked to many, many teachers and principals in the community of different schools, and I have heard from them about the delay that it takes for children to get to court. So maybe Mr. Rezabek should look at how his bill is being implemented. It's a very new bill, and we don't know yet what it's going to do as far as truancy is concerned. So that is first and foremost. Secondly, I want the people of Montgomery County to understand that Mr. Rezabek also just said I attacked him. Is that because I'm a woman? Because really I didn't attack him. I was very civil. I responded to his statements, but somehow it's called an attack. People of Montgomery County need to know that there has never ever been a woman sitting as judge in Montgomery County Juvenile Court. Don't you think it's time? Aren't you tired of the insults? Aren't you tired of people saying that women attack when they calmly respond to a point made? I have 17 years of legal experience in juvenile court as a prosecutor, a defense attorney, a guardian ad litem, and a custody attorney. I am a parent. I have been married for 20 years. This December, I have 2 teenagers, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. Nothing teaches you about children like being a parent yourself. I have learned so much from my children, and they are so different. So I truly understand from my legal background and from my personal background as a parent that each child is different and needs different consequences and treatment in order for them to flourish and succeed, which is my only goal should I become the first female juvenile court judge. Thank you.
Thank you both for your participation today, and good luck in your campaigns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The goal of the League of Women Voters is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. We are nonpartisan, meaning that we never support or oppose any candidate or party. We encourage everyone to vote. There are several ways to cast your ballot. By absentee ballot. Every registered voter should have received an absentee ballot application from the Secretary of State in September. If you did not receive the absentee form, you can download one from the Secretary of State's website. You can also vote early at your Board of Elections beginning October 10th. And the polls open at 6:30 a.m. on Election Day, Tuesday, November 6th, and close at 7:30 p.m. Last but not least, the League would like to thank DATV for partnering with us once again to present these candidate interviews. They volunteer their time, expertise, and equipment to make this possible. Thanks for watching, and be sure to vote.